India is experiencing a surge in digital threats, with organizations now facing an average of 3,200 cyber attacks per week. According to Checkpoint Software's 2026 Cybersecurity report, in 2025, the weekly average cyber attacks in India stood at 3,195, making a 2% increase compared to 2024. The rise in attacks highlights a broader trend where threat actors are moving away from manual methods in favor of high speed automated attacks. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Analytics Insight podcast, where we talk about the ever evolving tech space. And I'm your host, Priya Dayalani. Now, companies are extremely concerned about the evolving threat landscape and vulnerabilities of the country's critical infrastructure, particularly those that run on legacy systems. If tensions continue to escalate, cyber warfare could spill beyond conflict zones and trigger wider economic disruptions. Let's welcome Pawan Kushwaha, founder and CEO of Kratikal and Threat Corp, to discuss about why this cyber threat landscape is becoming more complex than ever and what are certain things we need to keep in mind while dealing with these challenges. Hi, Pawan, how are you doing? Welcome to our podcast.
Hi, Priya. I'm good. How are you doing?
I am doing good too, thank you. And I think in our today's discussion, we are going to uncover a lot of insights with you regarding the cyber threat landscape and I think how the future is going to look like in the coming years. And so let's start by telling our listeners more about Kratikal and ThreatCorp. And alongside that, we would also like to know more about you, Pawan. You have a single mission that is reducing human cyber risk at scale. And your long term vision is to make human cyber risk management a global standard and accelerate the world's transition to truly cyber aware organizations. So, a bit about you as well and your role towards the company today.
Great. Thank you, Priya, for having me. Hi, everyone. So let's start with what exactly we're building, and then I probably go to what my role is. Right. I started this company back in 2012 when my email account got hacked. Right. So someone kind of sent me a phishing link, the usual phishing link, right, which is now the kind of attack that you mentioned on a weekly level, the kind of attacks that are happening. Right. In the same context, I think probably at that point of time, those attacks was not that much heavy. So which is back in 2012. So I received this phishing email. I clicked on the phishing email, and I actually got compromised. Right. And once I got compromised, my access to my Facebook, my other social media accounts was taken, and there was a lot of garbage content which was posted. And that's where I figured out that this problem, right, cybersecurity, and even though if you talk about like a decade, like 10 years back, the security controls were not that much effective. What we figured it out, right, this particular problem is not only my problem, right? I, along with my other two co-founder, Deepjan Thapa and Parathos, trying to understand how a hacker actually compromised me and then get access to those social media accounts. Although for me as a kid, it was not that much important, but think like for a CEO, right? For a CXO, right? Who's running everything. Today, the media is one of the forefront of every other executive, right? So if they're running their social media accounts and something happens, the things can go on a very worse side. So when kind of investigating that particular issue, we find out that there's not only a one way to hack it, but there are tens of other ways by which you can hack it. And that's where the Critical and Threatcom was born, right? So we divided Critical in two different parts. The Critical works in two integrated business model. Number one, as a Critical as a brand name works on technology as well as process side. So if you look at cybersecurity, it's people, process, technology. So the process and technology is taken care by Critical. What I mean to say is, let's say if you're building an app or if you're building an ERP system or you're building anything that is something kind of coded, right? Or you have infrastructure inside your organizations. So what as a Critical we go and check this from a hacker's point of view and tell you exactly these are the n number of vulnerabilities that you have, and this is how you can plug those issues, right? So we kind of act as a hacker to kind of say through your system, plug those vulnerabilities, help your developer to kind of fix those issues or IT team, and then make sure that the bad actors does not come to you and then get those fixed, right? One of the things, this is the technology part. The process part is, let's say, if you have a compliance, like you need a certain panel report, you need an ISO 27001 or a SOC 2, any compliances that you have from a local authorities, we help you out to kind of achieve those compliances, right? Eventually, leading to a more strengthening security. That's what Kratikal's first model does. The second is predominantly focusing on people. Like you mentioned, right? Our focus is to kind of reduce human risk from the planet, right? We wanted to make sure that every other link or attachment or anything in terms of communication medium, which is coming to a user, be it via you, be it me, be it any other employee that you have, or a general public, they has to be sanitized first. And even if it's reached to the inbox slash text slash social media of the user, it is kind of the user doesn't exactly know when to click, where to click, and how to click, right? So basically, he's not clicking or she's not clicking on any link which is malicious in nature. And that's where the AI comes in play, right? It is kind of fabricating the attacks, and the frauds are on a very high risk. If you look at the fraud data from RBI, it is insanely increasing. So our mission is to make sure by simulating, right? We follow a framework called AAPE, Assess, Aware, Protect, and Empower, and we call it People Security Management in Threat Corp, right? What we do is first we kind of simulate different kind of attacks to you as an organization, and then see how your employees are responding to those attacks, right? So I can send, if let's say you, Priya, as my customer, you have 100 employees, you use my product, right? It's think like an AI-based hacker, which automatically sends those phishing simulated email or ransomware or cyber scam or QR code, and then understand the behavior of each and every employee. And once we understand the behavior, we exactly know, let's say if I send a Priya $500 or 500 rupees off on Amazon, Priya is going to click on that link, right? Same. So this is the first part. The second part is Aware, where we kind of make sure that the kind of intelligence that we have, we call it employee vulnerability score. Based on that, we give you a personalized learning path by which not only you get compliance with compliances, but you also get understanding why you shouldn't have clicked on that link. The next is to make sure that whatever you're getting as in data, which is like be it email, be it WhatsApp, SMS, text, whatever it is, if we can put our filters. So we have an email security product, right, which kind of filter out the entire data and then send it across to you, right? So basically, most of the attacks are being stopped at that level. In the last thing, like everything you did, right? Everything you protected, everything you did simulation, and everything is done. But still, you receive an email inside your mailbox or a WhatsApp, which you might see in the LinkedIn where the CEO is kind of putting that, okay, I've received this fake WhatsApp, right? What we do is we give the users a flexibility, kind of copilot, AI copilot, within inside your Outlook or a Gmail. You will click on that button. That button will open up a pop-up and tell you exactly why this email is a threat email or a fake email. So that's what we do in a nutshell in terms of critical and threat. Hope this answers my question, Priya.
Yes, Pawan, it definitely does. And I think that was a really comprehensive overview of Kratikal as well as ThreatCorp. And, we are glad to understand about the specialization and also the vision and intent behind it, and how you're positioning the company to solve some real and evolving challenges in the industry. Now, with that context in place, I would love to now dive a bit deeper into the bigger picture. Now, if you talk about India, India is definitely going through a digital revolution. From the streets of the city to remote villages, smartphones and the internet have become the means for everyday existence. And with the advent of UPI, digital banking, e-commerce, and work from home, the country quickly transformed into a digital first economy. But underlying this exciting leap is an emerging and chilling problem. That is a massive spike in cyber attacks. And as India's entire economy and infrastructure continue to digitize, cybersecurity is becoming a national priority. So, what do you believe are some of the factors or crucial factors behind the 250% rise in cyber incidents in India? And are organizations underestimating any specific risk factors?
Great question. Can I ask a follow-up question regarding this
Yeah, sure.
before I answer my question? So, Priya, have you the last time when you heard about a physical robbery happening
Mm-hmm.
around you
Yeah,
compared to the previous decade?
yeah,
It's very less, right?
yeah, very less. Yeah, true.
Yeah. Any specific reason that you see?
I mean, my view is that with how digitization is, playing a key role in transforming businesses, I also believe that,
Right.
now these robbers or malicious actors probably want to leverage these upcoming technologies and then, resort to their bad activities, is what I believe. That manual process of, breaking the locks or, getting into the physical robbery and probably putting their lives at risks. For them, they are being behind the curtains and, playing things and getting things done.
So honestly, you answered half of my question, right? So the thing is, everyone needs scale, right?
Hmm.
Scale with less risk, right?
Yeah.
Whenever the digital, I would say, comes a digital robbery, I would say digital robbery, right? Hacking or a fraud, I will generally call it digital robbery, right? It's scalable. It's highly scalable. People sitting in, let's say, a remote part of the world, be it, let's say, Pakistan or probably Nigeria, can do the same thing like in India, right? So you have seen those digital arrests happening and all of those things, right? Because of this adoption of digital technologies, the entire new attack for surface has been opened up, right? And you rightly mentioned because the malicious actors are, because if you do a physical robbery, there are a lot of risks that involves, honestly speaking, where your life is at stake and there are a number of things that happens, right? In a digital robbery, these things are not kind of something, these are guarded by borders. Sometimes these are like a guy which is having a little phone in his hand, right? Typing up malicious. And he does not know too much of the, let's say, things on the internet, but he can just right now use AI to generate those sophisticated, malified emails, messages, and texts, right? And send it to those employees or send it to those users. That is the predominant reason because these threats, the more the digital adoption increases, the more the threats are going to increase, right? And that's where we need a proper awareness and also the guardrails for our systems, right? So we wanted to make sure that because even if you try to kind of save the world and then try to educate everyone that don't do this, but there will be malicious actors in the system. So what predominantly I see is that these threat actors has gotten to a technology and they're using this in a very malicious mode at a very rapid scale. And when the AI comes into the action, right? So let's say a person, there is a famous village in Jharkhand which used to do a lot of phone fraud, right? The village people still does not have too much of education. And then if the people have education, they generally go for a good kind of a job, right? They can probably earn the living. But thing like this, even if you do not have a great education, you have some spelling mistakes in the email previously, right? You had something, the email is not properly drafted or the text is not properly drafted. So you're able to sense it. Now that you just put anything garbage in the chat GPT, it will remodify, give you the so nicely looking, convincing answer, and you just copy paste into the attack module, right? And people use that attack module to send out to the users. One more thing that I've seen so far is in case of digital arrest, right? These people has also started creating deepfakes, right? So someone like my voice pretty much can be deepfaked very easily. There are tools available for deepfake. The people can also deepfake the videos, right? There is a recent attack happens where one of the company lost $225 million, right? Where the CFO came in a Zoom call, right? And then he kind of approved a particular transaction which he was not supposed to approve, right? And he was not the real guy. It was an AI which was talking to those things. So obviously, this particular system, right, or the penetration of internet along with the AI has actually increased the attack surface for hackers and these bad actors. Having said that, the because of this penetration that is happening, there are new edge of companies which is coming, right, which is building the defense guards, right? So used to have a police, now you have a cyber defense companies which is building the latest technologies to make sure that any threat actor or a bad actor who try to kind of spoof, who try to kind of attack you, who try to kind of do anything malicious, they are able to kind of control, contain, and remediate those things, right? That's what ThreatCop does in a nutshell, right? So we, in a people side, we want to make sure that whenever these kind of attacks happening on the general public or the users who are our customers or the employee of our customer, we wanted to make sure that they follow AAP framework, where they first being attacked automatically for these kind of attacks, then getting aware, and then getting filtered those messages which is being received, and then obviously they have a co-pilot by which they can ask those questions and kind of get this sorted. So I think predominantly because of this raise, I think one of the industry cybersecurity is obviously booming, and they are coming with this kind of solution that we have never imagined in the past. So it's a game between threat actor versus good guys, and I think this will be all around in the world.
That's a strong insight, Pawan, and honestly, it highlights just how layered and fast evolving the cyber threat landscape in India as well as, global standards has become. And what really stands out is that this surge isn't being driven by just a single factor, but by a convergence of shifts. We discuss rapid digital adoption. Attackers now have expanding attack services, and increasingly sophisticated threat actors are now constantly a step ahead. And I think that brings us to the bigger picture that cybersecurity today is no longer just an IT function. It's a business critical priority that demands accountability across leadership, operations, as well as culture. Great. Moving ahead,
Yeah.
and we have discussed, how the cyber threat landscape has evolved from back then to now. I think when we think about these threats, we often, like when you ask me the question, why are we seeing those less of physical robberies? So what just
Yeah.
exactly comes to my mind is, malware or sophisticated software exploits.
Mhm.
Yet, one of the most significant vulnerabilities in an organization's security is much closer to home. The people who use the systems. Human errors, from an employee clicking a malicious link to a misconfigured server, are frequently the deciding factor that opens the door to cyber attacks. Now, studies have repeatedly shown that the majority of data breaches involve a human element. And one analysis even suggested that without human mistakes, 19 out of 20 breaches would never happen. So, I believe no industry or department is immune, whether it's a well intentioned HR professional falling for a phishing scam or an IT admin overlooking a critical patch. Human lapses occur in organizations of all types. So, why do you think this human error remains the biggest vulnerability despite seeing these rapid developments with the use of technology? And again, what steps you think organizations can take to build a more security conscious culture?
A great question. So I think what you said is right. When you said 19 out of 20, which is like close to 95% attacks, right? 95% of the attacks are actually driven by humans. And the reason is, I tell you, right, previously, like I said, 12 years back, the attack surface was also technology, right? But now we have matured enough to kind of put security in place before even we go to the production, right? So we, like I said, when we're in critical, whenever someone is building an app, they come to us and we test it as from a hacker's point of view and tell them this is what they're missing and this is what a hacker can exploit, right? So to answer your question, I think predominantly these attacks will be obviously is kind of increasing, right? And it also kind of increasing the attack surface from that angle. The question that you also asked that how one we can identify those attacks, right? The second is how the organization can secure themselves from those kind of attacks, right? What I generally tell them, right, this people security management framework, which is kind of open source, right? People should adapt that. The reason what I'm telling you this, when you ask me this, that okay, why the human risk are still there, right? It's because of our brain, right? We are always emotional and we have a conscious in our brain. So if someone comes to us and say, hey, let's go for a drink, right? And then ask for certain questions, which you are not able to understand this, he has a malicious nature or not, it's very difficult to kind of identify those wrong things and the right thing unless you have been trained to identify those things, right? So basically, sensing a particular vulnerability from a human standpoint is becoming a much more challenge. And these attacks, which is combined using people, like so, kind of getting access to one credential using human, and then getting into system are predominantly happening. These are attacks like Uber, Salesforce, right? There are multiple things that has happened so far in the past, which is already available on internet, right? Where they try to compromise the first user inside a company and then try to get access from that token or a credential. They were able to get access to a particular system and then they kind of exploit that system to get access to the larger system. And that's how they kind of get access to the entire infrastructure of some of the bigger giant, right? So to solve that, the only thing that you can do, and which I generally call it a firewall into human's brain, right? So whenever technology kind of comes in place, you have these best class of antiviruses, firewalls, who are trying to protect these people, these systems, right? And they're actively working, like reducing those threats. There are a lot of cybersecurity companies which are doing an amazing job, including some of the great Indian companies in cybersecurity, right? But when it's come to the people, no one is focusing on that area, right? Some of the company like ThreatCover is actually getting in that direction. So what we have to do is we have to educate and aware every other employee, right, or a user that this is how you can very easily identify these kind of attacks. And let me tell you, I think you asked from a human standpoint only, right? But Priya, the next wave that I see is also going to be agents, right? Agents also have the AI agents, right? Also have a specific, I would say, process by which they kind of click and they search for malicious data. So this is like web search or the calls that they're taking. They will also be prone to these kind of attacks, which is happening because I'm not sure. Have you heard about this called prompt injection by any chance?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. So prompt injection is that whenever you type something, right, which you want, let's say you type something on ChatGPT, I'm not sure if I say this word or not, but if you type something on ChatGPT that I wanted to make a bomb, right, it will not tell you how to make a bomb, right, because there are the guardrails. Again, cybersecurity platform that is already there, which kind of filter out what you're asking, so the model does not give you the answer. What happens so far is if I say ignore my previous instructions or something like similar to the same prompt, and then ask how to make a bomb, you probably will get an answer. By the way, this is a very basic, fundamental thing that I'm telling you, even though right now it's not possible, but some of the larger kind of context, which is generally called routing of LLMs, right? In ChatGPT, you can just ask those questions and there are multiple prompts. If you search, you will find it out that if you wanted to get those answers. So basically, what I'm trying to tell you is not only human, but these models also can be poisoned, right? The model also can be brain. So that's why this new thing comes in AI called skills, cyber skills, right? So you have to have those skill set for that particular AI agent as well. So basically, in short, what I wanted to give you, if you want my one word answer, it is going to be awareness. We have to aware our humans, our agents, in respect of what function, job, and what they're doing in day-to-day life.
Definitely, Pavan. And I think, why human error continues to dominate cybersecurity breaches is also because people operate at the intersection of speed, convenience, and complexity. And
Mhm.
even the most advanced systems can be undermined by something as simple as a reused password or a rushed click on a phishing email or any misconfigured access settings. Unlike machines, humans are also, susceptible to fatigue, cognitive overload, and social engineering tactics that exploit the trust and urgency. So I think attackers don't always hack systems. I think they're hacking human behavior. And eventually, I think, yes, we need more awareness, and that awareness should also move beyond behavioral change and, significantly shift the mind shift of everybody working and ensure faster response to mistakes and safe reporting in that way.
Yeah,
Great. Now, of course, we discussed about how the threat landscape is evolving, what are certain vulnerabilities that are growing, and how these threat actors are leveraging sophisticated technology like AI, to stay ahead of organizations. Now, having said that, because cyber attackers, since they don't rely on very basic malware or simple exploits, and they're going into AI assisted evasion methods to stay undetected for weeks. And to combat these type of attacks, traditional security solutions, which typically depend on static rules, are of course not at all equipped to detect these threats or even prevent and mitigate them. So how can organizations ensure that they are staying ahead when attackers are also leveraging the same technologies?
great question. I think the predominantly fundamental thing that you really have to understand, right? Right now, AI has made a life a little easier, right? In terms of understanding the behavior, be it system calls, be it human behavior, anything that you see. It's a fight between AI to AI, right? So you already have systems where the people are kind of using those systems to kind of attack these organizations, and then you have system which is again capable of AI, which is kind of securing those people and trying to find those attacks. I'll take an example, right? Again, more on a human risk side only, right? We talked about a deepfake, right? So one of the way of deepfake is when this particular thing happens where the customer lost $25 million and they just made this transaction, the bad actor were able to create. They did not use the sophisticated way, like sending an email to the user, and then kind of this email goes to the next, I would say, next phase of the attack, that where they're convincing, okay, why you should transfer money or not. But what they did is they sent drop the email also saying, hey, CFO want to join a call, and then CFO actually joined the Zoom call, and then they use that particular deep fake of the CFO in the Zoom call itself, right? So they were able to kind of get those 25 millions. Now, from a production standpoint, what we have to deploy is the AI can be beat with the help of AI itself, right? So what we have to use, if we would have a mechanism while the people are joining to identify that, okay, is this a real human or not, right? This wouldn't have been happened. We've also had a mechanism by was the people are aware that how to identify a deepfake video, which is obviously getting complicated to identify from a naked eyes. But if they know that, okay, these are some of the filtering questions that they can ask, that's something that could have been prevented. There is something also called double tap, right? Especially in cybersecurity, where what you can do is you can ask different questions. And again, I can coordinate it with this system calls as well. But in the, again, human psychology standpoint, let's say there's a famous, I'm not sure if you're aware about this. There is a famous quote saying that always ask something which is very personal. And if you know the person, so you ask a secondary question, like let's say if I know you, right, I will be doing something about you which no AI or a human system knows, right? Let's say, what's your pet name, for example, right? So I know your pet name. So if you just ask, and then you will be able to identify. Let's move this conversation from humorous to now from a AI assisted attack within a system, right? Let's say a ransomware attack or a phishing attack, right? So what happens so far is whenever you set the hackers, again, hacker will come through for a ransomware, they generally come through an employee, a credential, like you mentioned, right? So it's already available on dark web or deep web. They use that credential, send out an email to a colleague. Colleague thinks that this is coming from Pawan, and he will, with confidence, open that email. That email actually has a malicious file. The file get downloaded. The user click on that file, and this file start talking to your system, right? Let's look at the in the system, and I know it's going to be a little bit technical, but what this file does is this file tries to, so in terms of ransomware, what ransomware is, it actually kidnap your system, right? It kind of encrypt your files and then ask for a ransomware to decrypt the particular file, right? So what current system, and there are system already available, right? What they do is they look at every system call that particular file is making the system, right? So basically, whenever the file is trying to open a file, read a file which is not allowed, or it is not in, let's say if I'm downloading HR software, it should not go check my log history of, let's say, Chrome, right? It should not do that. So if there's a behavioral change happening, you have to put up an AI which is monitoring these structural pointers, which is this particular machine or a ransomware or a exe file is making within the system, right? So has to be AI was analyzing this call, and there used to be rules, right? If this happens, this happens. If this happens, this happens, right? That's why the entire antivirus market shifted from a signature-based detection to a behavioral-based detection, right? So basically, right now we have to analyze every other aspect of the behavior of the files, which is kind of interacting with your systems, and also the behavior of the hackers, the kind of email that they're sending, the kind of files they're sending, the kind of conversation they're sending or having. Everything has to be, I would say, looked into a two-faced lens, right? So first, like you try to see what it is, and then try to verify if this is the right information or not.
Yes, Pawan, and I think you rightly pointed out, that both sides have access to the same capabilities, but the real advantage seems to come from how intelligently and proactively organizations use these technologies. I think it's not just about deploying these cutting edge tools or systems, but also embedding it into a broader security mindset, one that is adaptive, continuously learning, and deeply integrated into the business. And
Yeah.
I think in many ways, staying ahead today is less about having access to best technology, but more about how fast you can evolve with it.
Yep.
Definitely. And I think with the digital journey, I mean, who knows what will happen in the next decade. But if history is any guide, the threat landscape will continue to rise. Threat actors will grow increasingly sophisticated, of course, with the help of AI. And malicious and financially motivated actors will go after increasingly bigger payoffs and prizes. Well, thank you so much, Pawan, for taking all the time and effort to be on a podcast today and, helping us understand that digital journey has opened up vast possibilities and, improved ways of working and living. But this shift also brings in its awake a compelling necessity to tackle the darker side of digitization, that is the surging side of cybercrime. And I think for C-level leaders, the challenge lies in shifting the narrative, moving from a reactive, cost based approach to a more proactive and value driven strategy. And by linking cybersecurity initiatives to core business performance, the management can clearly see the direct connection between the cybersecurity strategy and the organization's financial success, not just its protection. Thank you so much, Pawan, for your insights. It was lovely chatting with you.
Thank you, Priya, for having me.
Thank you. So, this
Thank
is
you.
for our listeners. I hope you enjoyed today's discussion around how cyber threat is evolving and why cybersecurity can no longer be an afterthought. It needs to be ingrained in our everyday routines, even in education processes and how we are working today. I think with how the threats are getting more sophisticated and indiscriminate, of an inclusive approach will contribute to sustainable growth and long-term resilience in an increasingly digital world. Stay tuned for upcoming episodes, and you can view all our previous episodes on Spotify and other leading platforms. Thank you so much.